Watch this.
Well, welcome to the final episode of the 208 for this year, 2021. You'll see Brian Holmes next year. Tomorrow, though, we're going to have a little 208 holiday special for you, but then after that, we're going to be off for the rest of the year, so we'll circle back in January. But for now, we wanted to end the year on a good note, and you, the loyal 208 audience, so many of you had sent us a really inspiring story on social media about neighbors helping neighbors. It all started as an act of kindness at a gas station, and now it's grown into a community campaign to help those in need, just in time for Christmas. So here's a story that I honestly believe personifies the kindness and care in our community. On a cold December day, Crystal Thompson did something that would change the lives of a family she didn't even know. While on a quick trip to the convenience store, Crystal noticed a family in need.
They were homeless. I've been homeless before, so I recognize that.
Crystal says she knew she had to do something to help this family, the Loaders. So inside the gas station, she took out her last $20.
When I handed him the $20, the look on his face, in his eyes, he was shocked and he was so thankful. He was like, "Thank you so much." And I was like, "It's the least I can do, man."
But Crystal wasn't done trying to help. Her son, Lucian, knew something was up as soon as she got home.
I could tell when something's up. The look on her face, I was like, "What happened?" And then she told me the story about the babies and stuff.
So, Crystal wrote a passionate post on the Nextdoor app to try and rally more support for a family that just needed a break.
I was still crying, and that was raw emotion. And I just wanted to get the point across that these people really need help.
Crystal's passion to help others shined through her words. She was overwhelmed by the response the next day.
It had blown up. It was insane.
Hundreds and hundreds of comments chimed in.
Hi, Crystal. I want to thank you for taking care of the Louder family.
People wanted to follow Crystal's lead to help the Loader family. Food, toys, clothing, and money all started pouring in.
Everybody's just like, what can we do to help? What do they need? And every single need that they've had, people are on top of it. They're coordinated amongst each other in their little neighborhoods and like, okay, what are we going to do? And it's just really something. It's a great thing to see the community come together like that.
The social media explosion of kindness quickly became a lot for Crystal to handle. Sure enough, a complete stranger quickly offered to help with coordinating the avalanche of donations and resources.
I was raised in the church and we were taught that we have talent, time, and treasure. And I don't have a lot of treasure, but I have a talent to organize things. So I put a lot of things on spreadsheet and kind of kept going to get things organized that way.
This is Patty Foster, and Patty says giving back is in her DNA. Like her grandmother and mother, Patty says she's simply passionate about helping others.
Kind of like the Christmas story. In some small way, you're helping to give a bed for this little baby. And that's the exact Christmas story. And so, yes, it's very uplifting. I'm just one person in all of this. And there's so many of us.
She's amazing. And thank you, Patty, so much. She really made this happen for sure.
Crystal is a humble and kind person. I'll tell you that. She very literally gave her last $20 to help a family in need.
I didn't even think twice about giving them my last $20. It just needed to happen, And it's come back to me tenfold.
A Facebook post about Crystal's actions went viral. When the community learned that Crystal and her family could use some support too, neighbors again jumped into action. Just ask her son.
Knowing that so many people care about us and the family is because about every 20 minutes or so, there's somebody knocking at the door, either giving us a gift card or food or something.
Either for us or for the families that I'm advocating for.
Yes, it's just wonderful to see Boiseans just pitching in and saying, I have a lot, but I have $10 I can give. Well, $10 is really nice for a family who is, down on their luck right now.
Can't explain the emotion that I feel. It makes me feel like there's hope, like there is goodness happening out there. It's hard to tell because all you feel and see on the news or around you really is all the bad stuff. It's hard to remember that goodness has momentum too, probably even more so than the negativity. If more people came together for a good thing, I think that we could really do something great,
And Crystal and everyone organizing this tells me they've just been so overwhelmed with resources and donations that they've been able to actually share some of the donations and money with other families. If you're interested in learning more about the story or helping out, you can go to ktvb.com at the end of this show, and we're going to have the full story up there with some links to the social media sites there. But really some great action there from our community. And guess what? It wasn't the only act of kindness that we heard about this week on the 208 Facebook page. How about this? Last night, Geraldine Foucher Hunter posted this to the 208 Facebook group. She says her husband was waiting in line to check out at Ridley's grocery store in Weiser yesterday and started a conversation with the man in front of him. She says her husband then started talking to their grandson who was with him, and as the man in front of him was checking out, they found out that when they were done, the man said Merry Christmas and left. Well, she says her husband noticed his groceries were already bagged up when he got to check out. So she says he asked the cashier for his total and said that the man in front of him had paid for his groceries. And she says her husband tried to find the man when he left the store, but he was nowhere to be found, as the story goes. And that post already has nearly 1,000 likes. So if by chance that gentleman is watching for us tonight, maybe in the Weiser area, we wanted to thank you. We could use more people like you out there, and people like Crystal and Patty and so many other people in this community that are out there doing so much good, because there is a lot of good in our community. Sometimes you just have to find it. It's crazy to think that 2022 is just 9 days away. We met so many incredible people over the last year who opened up and shared their stories with us. So before we sign off for the final time this year, we're bringing back some of the most memorable faces in the 208 in 2021.
This is not the first time I have felt the heavy gaze of society on my back, and it most certainly will not be the last.
Everybody has a story. You've been followed walking through a store.
Yes. Yep. Happens a lot.
And some are willing to share it.
And it's sad and it hurts.
About themselves, like 17-year-old Olivia Malmgren.
It was kind of like I was turning my back on who I'm supposed to be. My brown skin causes some people to judge me before they get to know me. My beautiful brown skin.
Or their family, like the Sham sisters of the Sunshine Spice Cafe, and Omira, who told us about living under the Taliban. So all of this happening right now, and all of these memories flooding back to you.
Yep.
How hard is that?
It's really hard. And especially when I have a sister in Mays in Afghanistan, they're always like in fear of going outside.
We celebrated big days.
Oh, we just thought it would be really cool to see Air Force One land, you know.
Are you supposed to be in class right now?
According to my AP government teacher, I have permission.
And small gestures.
My name is Kirsten Brown. I am the director for Idaho Angels Incorporated.
Who for the last 4 years has helped layer the Shoshone Street Bridge with basic winter needs for the homeless of Twin Falls.
It goes beyond just giving them a box of clothes or a box of food.
It makes me feel like that people think about us.
There were those who thought about things way outside of this world. Do you believe in UFOs?
I've seen them.
You've seen them?
I've seen them.
Jim Millard saw his first when he was 5.
And it was not balloon-shaped, it was saucer-shaped.
And Stu Johnson, who's had his brush with Bigfoot.
Exactly, I'm a Bigfoot enthusiast.
And thought he needed a festival for it. The name he knew almost immediately.
I said, so I'm gonna call it SquatchCon.
Like Comic-Con, but smaller.
It's Bigfoot, so it's better.
From the mysterious to those who just needed to know their neighbors.
We really didn't know each other. I didn't know these folks. I didn't know that couple, and they didn't know each other.
We've noticed our neighbors, but we really didn't know them very well.
The positive side of the pandemic found in the front yard.
Shall we go? Shall we walk? I like to stay active. All right, let's go.
We found ourselves humbled by our heroes. Like J. Dover Romline, who turned his military service into community service.
I was in the 3rd Battalion, 16th Field Artillery. Good girl. Tonight I'm doing what they call night watch. I'm just walking around from 10 to 2 to keep an eye on things and make sure that nobody tampers with the flags and everybody's respectful.
And Benjamin Victor, the artist who built the new statue for the Veterans Cemetery.
Again and again you hear from different veterans over different eras that camaraderie between them is what keeps them together.
There you go.
To Hugh Mays, a 97-year-old World War II veteran dealing with dementia.
You don't remember when you were flying in the planes?
Yes.
You do remember the planes.
And his daughter Deborah, who wanted to give him one last memory.
And I just wanted something that would spark, give him a spark.
Hugh passed away a month after this last flight. But that wasn't all we lost this year. This 950, planted at the beginning of December, wouldn't even be half the flag Cindy would add to her front yard by the middle of March 2021. 1942. Nearly 2,000 individuals taken too soon because of the coronavirus.
Hey, Mr. Tatro.
We lost a few teachers, too.
You have a group of legislators that really see education kind of as the enemy right now.
Like Michael Tatro, who walked away from his profession after 25 years.
And this toxic environment is not going away. It seems to be getting worse.
We also lost a morning mainstay in McCall.
It's been wonderful.
When George and Bonnie Bertram called it quits after 43 years of running the Pancake House.
In our 70s now, it's time to be done.
When you get to that point, you kind of realize that the days are numbered and there's still things you want to do in life. And now we're going to get a chance to do that, hopefully.
We also seem to have lost sight of how a global health crisis can hit so close to home. In September, in the midst of Idaho's hospitals operating under crisis standards of care for the first time ever, we were allowed inside to see a day in the life of the COVID unit and the ICU, where we learned the toll it was taking on our healthcare workers from Nurse Carrie Smith.
It's funny how you're able to figure out how you're going to cope with that.
And Dr. Megan McInerney.
It's daunting, and our team's struggling, right? There's this moral distress that's happening amongst healthcare workers.
You take your 60 seconds in the med room, you cry, you clean up your tears the best you can, and then you go back in because you know that family needs you to be there.
But even through the daunting adversity.
No, it needs water for it to grow. We don't have any water, so it's done.
Like when Robin Lathamies and Darren Tabor.
Last year we got it cut 3 times. A lot of years we'll cut it 4 times.
This year, just once.
Just once.
2 Lincoln County dairy farmers who had to find a way through a growing season cut short by one of the driest years on record. Through those losses, we managed to find a way to gain some ground.
They don't go out ever.
Right.
They don't ever go out.
We have people who haven't been out of town in years.
For a reason.
Rhonda, Deb, and Rhonda are 3 of Yellow Pine's 29 seasonal citizens. Like an entire mountain town getting vaccinated from COVID because a couple of healthcare workers from McCall managed to drive 8 hours in the snow to get it done.
This is just kind of how Idaho does it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And thank God.
Oh, yes.
Thank God.
Absolutely.
A reminder that sometimes the best parts
you can't ever have enough pictures of bald eagles
are still out there and sometimes found in odd places.
And I texted my girlfriend, I'm like, do you think we could sell a Dorito in a jar on Facebook? And she's like, sure.
We just have to keep going, like the Kezars, who have been going to Don's barbershop for 4 generations. Make that 5 after this haircut this past June. Proof that we can count on the world to keep spinning.
There's one happy customer.
Even when it sometimes seems to be spinning out of control.
But I would love to be here for the next generation. Maybe, who knows? We'll see.
Well, one of the things that we love most about the 208 is learning about the unique and often weird history of Idaho. 208 producer Danny Alsop shares some of her favorite stories that we were able to tell in 2021.
We took you all around the 208 in 2021, from the highest peaks.
Yeah, it comes up quite a bit. Where does Hawaii, how do you say it, how do you spell it, and where does it come from?
It comes from a place far away from Idaho. In the early 1800s, the Northwest Fur Company out of Canada went looking for workers from a place legendary British Captain James Cook called Oahe. Around 1818, according to Eric's, Donald Mackenzie, working for the company, led an expedition that included 3 Hawaiians through the Pacific Northwest.
They came into the rugged frontier here, so they really forged up the Columbia River and got all the way up into this border of Idaho-Oregon area, and then he separated his crew.
The Hawaiians were kept together, and that summer were sent off to set up traps. Mackenzie wrote about it in his journal.
His quote is, 3 Oahes, spelled the way we spell it, Oahe, went along a small river to trap where no danger was seen.
But they must have found some. And that's how Idaho's first county came to be named after our country's last state.
And we introduced you to some of Idaho's pioneers.
In Julia Davis Park, you can actually come and have some quiet time. You can have a quiet picnic.
Julia became known as the welcome wagon of Boise, helping immigrants traveling on the Oregon Trail who stopped along the river to rest.
She was a really, really nice lady. She would come down to the park, which was still an apple orchard, and bring things for the pioneers.
They grew apples, and it was really conveniently located next to the river for irrigation.
That orchard was prone to flooding, and Tom considered conferring it to the city for its first public park.
And so finally, when Julia died, Tom said, "You will take the park and you will name it after her, and it will forever be known that."
And to some of the more interesting characters.
It started as the territorial prison in 1872, a rather rough house in those early days. But by the early 1950s, the old Idaho State Penitentiary had mellowed, mostly. Enter Dennis the Cat. In June of 1952, a prisoner serving a life sentence smuggled the black tomcat into House 2. Sure, there's a no pet policy, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they had been keeping him secret. They had been keeping him hidden. They'd been sneaking him snacks, sneaking him food.
Of course, it wasn't long before the guards discovered Dennis, and then the warden got wind of him, who would only allow Dennis to stay if the convicts could keep their cool.
We learned the Blue was actually an airstrip before it was the Blue.
Meanwhile, Boise was growing, and so was its first Institute of Higher Learning.
So Boise Junior College had been leasing space on the north side of the river, and when this opportunity arose, they relocated to the south bank and built their first administrative building and added some dormitories and classrooms over time. And so eventually the use of that airstrip, it ceased. And so in 1936, thereabouts, the decision was made to officially relocate the Boise Airport to Gowan Field.
But the original airfield was still on school grounds. That is, until Boise Junior College needed to build a football field. And one could say the Broncos took control of the airspace after that.
And that someone actually sent their kid through the mail ticket to Grandma's house.
That sidestep the train ticket mentality led to other peculiar parcels perceived by parents. Oh yeah, people passed their kids along with the postman. 7 times between 1913 and 1915, according to the National Postal Museum. One of those times was one of the last.
She is known as Mailing May, a little girl that was shipped through the mail, through the postage system.
5-year-old Charlotte May Piersdorf lived in Grangeville, Idaho. Her grandmother lived in Lewiston, but getting them together would cost too much by train.
It was nearly 3 times as expensive to buy her a train ticket as it was to buy the postage to mail her to Lewiston.
So that's what they did. On February 19th, 1914, May Piersdorf was sent packing, sort of, with postage pinned to her coat.
53 cents.
To mail a child. Oh, Miss May still made the 73-mile commute on the Camas Prairie Railroad, just in the mail compartment instead of the passenger part.
Bittersweet day here at Idaho's News Channel 7. If you don't know the news I'm about to tell you, this is going to be a big shock. Today is Mark Johnson's very last day at Channel 7 after a 40-year career here in the industry. 30 years specifically he spent right here in Boise at KTVB. So, as an ode to Mr. Mark Johnson, we dug through the archives and we found this gem from the early 2000s of Mark and Brian Holmes, and, well, you'll just have to see this for yourself.
Let's check back in on our own steely blonde bomber, Brian Holmes. Brian, permanent? Is it permanent?
It's permanent. This is about as permanent as it gets, right, Lonnie?
Very permanent.
Very, very permanent, I'm told. And you know what? I'm starting to like it.
Your wife is good with it? Your mother is okay with it?
We'll find out, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. All right, don't go anywhere. We'll see that.
All right.
Again. It's a good look on you. There.
It was, in fact, not a good look. Brian, by the way, he was dyeing his hair for charity, wasn't he?
It was. The Steelheads were going to donate $500 to the Boys and Girls Club if he would dye his hair blonde, and he did, and I think he liked it more than he should have.
Well, we'll see if he goes back to it. I don't think he's got the length for it anymore, but that's okay. Mark, before we let you go, we have one more clip queued up here, and I don't know what this is going to be, so we're going to find out together. What could this be?
I'm going to compromise with those of you that want me to be wearing a tie in the 208 and those who don't. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to compromise. So I'm going to have a half a tie right here. Should have gotten some sharper scissors. Half a tie is like not having a tie on the bottom and having a tie on the top. There we go. So now that's a compromise. Part tie, part not.
So there's your 208 trivia. Mark, how many episodes of the 208 did you do?
I did a half dozen, I think.
Okay.
That was the only time, though, that I chopped my tie in half.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to keep this one together.
I'm going to keep this one. This is from a friend, my Christmas tie. I'm going to have this tonight for my last show ever. And by the way, bring a mop because I'll be just a puddle of goo right here in the 10 o'clock show. I know I will. I'm going to miss this place and this job so much. And I'm going to miss you guys, too.
Oh, Mark, we're going to miss you, and the newsroom won't be the same, but I'm told we have 30 seconds left, so for the News at 5 audience, I know before the 208 days, the News at 5 was a big deal. Dee was here for a long time. What's your final sign-off for the News at 5, Mark? I'll let you have the last word.
The News at 5, I'm going to say the 208 will return tomorrow. No, not tomorrow.
Next year.
Next year. And I will be watching and not on it.
We'll see Mark tonight at 10 p.m. here on KTVB. Mark Johnson signs off. We'll see you then.